Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I wanted to remind you of our Road to 1,000 subscribers giveaway that we have going on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe and have a public profile, you'll be entered to win a free RX Smart Gear original jump rope. You'll get to pick the pattern of the handles, the color and weight of the cable, and you'll be getting one of the best-selling, best-performing jump ropes out there. Every time we hit a new century mark with the number of subscribers to our channel, we'll randomly select a new winner. And our friend Dave Newman is going to throw in a little something extra for each winner. So a special thanks to our sponsor, RX Smart Gear, to Dave Newman for being such a great partner, and to you for being a loyal listener. Good luck, and I hope you are our next winner.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I wanted to talk to you about our new sponsor, Element 26. They are an innovative company producing lots of products around the CrossFit, strongman, powerlifting space. They have weightlifting belts, they have knee sleeves, they have thumb tape. They have these cool little straps that go around the bars when you're trying to attach a bar to the rig and maybe using it for low bar work, like pull-ups for little kids, or some modifications for like bar muscle ups when you're trying to teach someone to do them. And you know how you wrap those rubber bands around the rig and the J hook to kind of keep everything straight? Well, they've made straps for that. And they're straps kind of like the straps you use for rings. They have a really secure system on it, and you can wrap around the bar and keep that nice and secure. I love their innovation. Their product development team is top notch, and they're just coming up with really different ideas for our space. So check them out at element26.co. That's element26.co, and tell them Kat sent you.
All right. Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to the Clydesdale Fitness and Friends. My name is Scott Schweitzer. I'm your host. I'm the Clydesdale. I have my co-host, Kat Shear, with me. And today we have a very special friend, Shaylin Laure. How are you doing, Shaylin?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good. I actually met Shaylin about 6 months ago when she became the fittest law enforcement officer in the world. So kudos to that.
Thank you so much.
I know that when we talked back then, this was a goal of yours. This was something you set out to do. Can you walk us through why that was the goal you set and what you did to kind of accomplish that?
Sure. The Open had changed formats. So with the whole quarterfinals, semifinals thing, I wasn't really sure if I was a semifinals level athlete or not. So I planned on giving it my all in the Open and quarterfinals. And then the occupational games was kind of going to be like my season culminating event, because I just was thinking I wouldn't make semifinals. And it ended up being the opposite, but I chose to still do occupational games, because I wanted to represent women in law enforcement. And I think that it's an important part of our camaraderie just as a profession. And I'm so glad I did. It was a lot of fun.
So as a law enforcement officer, I know you've talked about in the past about the 3-week Open actually helping you as a law enforcement officer actually compete.
Yeah. Having it shorter was a lot easier for me to prioritize it and make my rest days on Thursday and then hit the workout on Friday and recover all weekend and hit it again on Monday. Only having to do that for 3 weeks as opposed to 5 was actually a lot better with my work schedule, just because my work schedule can be so hectic and unpredictable.
And can you tell our viewers what that's like? You know, we haven't said what law enforcement you were involved with, but you actually work for the FBI.
I do.
And you are on call 24/7. So what does training look like because of that?
So for the most part, we try to plan our work to be Monday through Friday during normal hours. Obviously, crime happens all the time. So that doesn't necessarily mean that's the only time we're working. So being on call, we have certain weeks and weekends of the year where we're like the primary agent on call if something were to happen in our area. We cover quite a few counties in the middle of North Carolina. But then if anything happens that's specific to my squad in my area, we're all going to go in. So for training, that means I try to make Monday and Friday rest days so that I can train on Sunday, even though people would normally rest on Sunday. And then instead of making Thursday rest day, I push it to Friday so that if I end up working late one of those weekdays prior to Friday, I can make up that workout on Friday instead.
And you work in the violent crimes division, which means you don't get anything mundane, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, we aren't locals. We don't go to regular 911 calls. We work on different squads that are assigned certain federal crime that you would cover. So I work violent crime. So any violent crime that violates a federal law within our counties in the middle of North Carolina would be something that I would take.
Okay. So is CrossFit a good stress release from that?
CrossFit's the best. Not only stress release, but also we have to be in shape, obviously. We do take a fit test. It's pretty standard, just like the military, running, push-ups, sit-ups. But I feel like if you just train to that fit test, you aren't necessarily going to win in a fight or a foot chase if that's what happens on an arrest. And CrossFit definitely prepares me better than just training to the fit test standards.
So what does it do for your mind? CrossFit, sometimes, they say you have to go to that dark place. Are there times when you're at work and you have to push beyond your limits to apprehend somebody?
It can happen. I'm fortunate enough to have a big enough squad that if you're out there alone, something went wrong. We would never plan for that to happen. We would always plan to have a full squad there for an arrest. And generally you're not alone. You've got your partners there.
Okay.
So it's not like Clarice Starling in the movie where she's all by herself going into a house and trying to find the crazy guy that's making the skin suits, right? It's a little different than that.
That's very Hollywoodized. Yeah.
Darn it. It sounds so
Yeah.
cool. And scared. What made you want to go into law enforcement? And what was that path sort of academically? What does that look like?
So I actually in college wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I got an undergraduate degree in psychology. But I worked for campus safety when I was there. And my bosses were some of the most supportive and nicest guys I had ever met in my life. And they were retired cops. So just from like having breaks at, we'd have a break at midnight to have coffee and hearing all their stories and the way they spoke about the profession and how they conducted themselves is really what got me interested. And then 2 days after I graduated college, I started at Kent County Sheriff's Department. And at that point, it was I needed a job. I was done with college. I needed to get some benefits and just start being an adult. But it became so much more than that for me. It was culture shock. I went to a small private Christian college and kind of seeing how the rest of the world actually operates and not living in that little bubble anymore was certainly shocking, but in a good way. I grew up a lot. I learned a lot, and I felt like I had a purpose beyond just going to work and making a paycheck. And that's really what made me want to continue to pursue law enforcement, because I can't see myself just sitting at a desk and working for money. That doesn't motivate me. But doing a job where I can actually make a difference in people's lives does motivate me.
Mm-hmm. And so when you said you start with the sheriff's department, was that you were training to be like a police officer at first?
I actually started in dispatch because I hadn't gone to academy at that point. And in Michigan, you need at least an associate's degree and a police academy. Different states, are different, and you don't need a college degree. So I started in dispatch. After maybe like 6 months, I didn't love that I was taking the call and helping someone through the phone just wasn't enough for me. I wanted some closure and some resolution. So I decided to take admin leave for my department and go to the police academy. And then I came back as a police officer.
Got it. Okay. And were there many women in your class?
I was one of 4, and we had like 32 total students, I believe.
Wow. Okay.
And then when do you take the leap from police officer in your local county to, federal law enforcement, and how does that process work?
So it looks different for everyone. I personally chose to join the military, and that sorry, I was getting a phone call.
It's okay.
Okay. Congress had just opened the infantry to females, and right around that time, I was getting duty to warn lists that would come across the law enforcement network. And as a local cop, you had a duty to warn anyone in your jurisdiction who was listed on a kill list that ISIS had put online. This was back in like 2015, 2016 that these were coming out. So I hated that we were allowing ISIS to come into our home and cause this terror, even though they weren't acting on the kill list. And I just wanted to do more. I felt like I could do more to protect my community, maybe by joining the military. And I had always wanted to serve in the infantry. I had gone through the process to become an officer in the Army, but we would get to that point where I was like, do I want to actually sign? And there wasn't really a job that I wanted to do because I wanted to be on the front lines. And they infantry to women, it was like a no-brainer to me. It's what I had wanted to do. I wanted to serve in a larger capacity. And I felt like I could make a bigger difference for the people in my community that I was already serving by volunteering to serve in the military instead. So I joined the military. I loved it. I ended up becoming an infantry officer in the Army. And then I didn't get to deploy. Not everyone does. And at that point, things had kind of died down in the Middle East by the time I was done with all of my training. So deployments weren't how they had been 10 years prior when I would have absolutely loved to go. So I ended up going back to my police department when I got out of the military because I had just taken military leave. And I applied to go federal because I wanted to still serve on a larger scale. But instead of just training all the time and being ready to go and never getting to go, I wanted to actually be out there using my training and making a difference, which federal law enforcement has allowed me to do.
So forgive my ignorance, but women couldn't serve in the infantry until 2015?
Yeah, Congress passed something in December of 2015 that allowed women to serve in combat arms. So it wasn't just the infantry, it was also armor. And I believe, no, field artillery had opened a little bit sooner, but it also opened up special forces, I think, and Navy SEALs. I could be wrong about that. But I know for sure the infantry and armor MOSs were closed to women until that was passed by Congress. So I joined early 2016.
That blows my mind. And I also found out that you were the first honor graduate of the basic infantry.
Yeah, I was the first female to be an honor graduate of any infantry school. And I actually broke the record for the score that had stood for years. So that was kind of cool to go in, and they were gender neutral standards, and prove that we couldn't just be there and meet the standard, but we could blow the standard out of the water and we belong there.
So you were a trendsetter and an overachiever.
That's one way to put it. I was very passionate there. And as an officer going through officer candidate school, you have to go to basic training first. And then you have to go to officer candidate school and commission. And then you have to go to your MOS school. So for me, it was infantry. That process, they will ask you as an officer candidate, you're in regular basic training. Everyone else already has an MOS assigned. Officers have to earn it at officer candidate school based on an order of merit list. So the top performers get their top pick of a branch and the bottom performers get what's left, because there's only certain number of positions for each branch that's needed at that time. So in basic training, anytime I'd tell someone that I wanted to be infantry, because they'd always ask if you're an officer candidate, what branch you're trying to join, everyone laughed at me. Literally all the male drill sergeants.
That's not usual, right? I mean, most people do the OCS to avoid infantry, right?
No, necessarily. No, not necessarily, but just the male drill sergeants who were in the infantry, they would laugh and they would like, you're never gonna make it. Women don't belong there.
Got it.
So then I went to officer candidate school, and I was top of the order. And one of the cadre who was infantry didn't believe that women belonged in the infantry and intentionally gave me 1 point above failing on an operation. And then I did the next operation with his boss, who gave me a perfect score, and they were very similar operations. So he didn't want me to be on the top of that list. So he didn't want me to get infantry. Fortunately, I still finished 5th overall, even with that poor score. And there were 5 infantry spots. So I still got it. But even just getting there was a process. And I had to work my ass off just to have a chance to try an infantry school, because so many people didn't believe that we belonged there.
So I'm going to try to formulate this right. Your job is very male dominant, yet you're doing a sport that is very equal, right? Women get the same pay as men. You get the same spotlight as men. How is that contrast to you? Like, your day job is this way, but your recreational hobby / competition is another way.
I am super, super blessed to have a very supportive squad and supervisor, and it does not matter to them that I'm a female. It has no bearing on how I'm treated. For me, my work life, my gender has no say in anything there. That's not how it was in the military. That's not how it was at my local department, but now it's very much equal. And I'm very fortunate to have people who I work with who want to see me succeed. So I don't think that there's no contrast. In both places, it's equal. Actually, my gym, I go to CrossFit Shoe Fly in Fuquay Arena, North Carolina, and we are dominated by competitive females. It's you'll see like a class and there's 12 male bars and 12 female bars. All the female bars are gone and there's a few male bars gone, because we absolutely dominate that gym.
I was at the Map Fest this weekend, and I think there was at least one team, if not more, from Shoe Fly. I saw some t-shirts on the floor.
Yeah, there were 2 teams there. The RX team, one of the girls was Street. She's the owner. And then Maria, I work out with them every day. They're phenomenal athletes. And that's just 2 of many female competitors we have at our gym.
Yeah, super cool. So speaking of CrossFit, what's on your plate sort of for the next season? What are you hoping to accomplish, and what do your days look like leading up to that?
Yeah. So this off season, the MAC back in May was my first individual competition ever. And it was absolutely shocking. I had no clue what I was doing. And I hope to never feel like that ever again, because it was so overwhelming. So this off season, I competed as my individual. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we got to see you at MAC, and I will tell you, you seemed stressed, right? Yeah. I mean, you did. You seemed very in a good way, because it makes sense. It was your first time, and you sort of were, doe-eyed going into that, and hopefully you learned a lot. But yeah, we could tell that, it was a struggle for you, but such an exciting opportunity. And of all the semis, I mean, that one was just run so well. So you got lucky.
I did. And I'm glad I went. I'm glad I was thrown into it, but I tried to prepare much better for next year. Now that I know that it's something that's a for me. So this off season, I tried to compete as much as I could individually, specifically, so I could learn the pacing and what it's like being out there all by yourself, because it's definitely different than like partner comps. And I competed about twice a month most of the time. I have 2 more in January and 1 more in December. So that's kind of still my preseason, but aside from those 3 comps, it's all training at this point. I'm pulling back on the competing so that I can really hammer my weaknesses, give my CNS some time to recover before going into quarterfinals and occupational games again. I'm trying to increase my volume right now. So off season, because I competed so much during the week, I would have to really have lower volume and lower intensity, so my CNS wouldn't be so drained. And then of course you have online qualifiers for some of those comps that you have to do during the week. So then you're going 100% again. So my volume was much lower because my intensity was so high all the time. So now I'm pulling back on intensity a little bit, increasing my volume some, trying to get some like monostructural conditioning done in the morning so that in the evening when I go to the gym, I have a little bit less I have to cram into my session, because I only go to the gym in the evening, and I try to do all my monostructural at home before I go to work, so that I can just be more efficient with my time, I guess, instead of going to the gym and having to warm up twice and cool down twice for weightlifting and all that. But Saturday and Sunday are my biggest volume days, because hopefully I don't get called into work on the weekends. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is I'm in the gym for probably 3 to 4 hours in the evening and doing some sort of monostructural conditioning in the morning before I go.
And who's part of your team?
Pretty much the whole gym. Our gym is incredibly supportive. I just switched there right after quarterfinals last year. And these girls had known me 5 weeks, and some of them came to the MAC to watch. So yeah, I can't speak highly enough about the support in the gym, and the rest of them all watched it streamed on YouTube. I had overwhelming amounts of support that I didn't have at the other gym that I had gone to. So my actual team, I guess you would call it, Amanda Street is the owner of the gym. She's doing my programming. And then all of the other competitors at the gym, male and female, are working out with me, pushing me. Even the non-competitors, just some people from class who want to do something extra will jump in with me. And working out with people for me is so much more important than like the actual workout. Because if I have someone pushing with me, my intensity can be so much higher. So I'd rather do a scaled back version and give it that intensity with someone, rather than do some higher skill version by myself and lose some of that intensity. So to name the whole gym would take a long time, but so many people in the gym who will do that extra work and who are willing to suffer with me. And it's a game changer for me.
So at MAC, you were with Misfit. Are you still with them?
So I'm sponsored by Sharpen the Axe, and I still follow bits of their programming. I do streets programming in bulk so that I can do class with the gym. And then I'll pull like some of their gymnastics capacity stuff. I'll pull some of that. I'll pull some of their, most of their monostructural conditioning is what I'm doing in the mornings. And then I just do the Metcon and the lifting with classes at the gym.
And you're sponsored by Yearbay too?
I am, yeah. They're, for knowing, some people don't know yet, they're huge, but they're a plant-based sparkling beverage, and they have caffeine, more caffeine than like 2 cups of coffee. So it's an energy drink, but it doesn't stop your heart.
Yeah, they had them in all of the media areas during the semifinals. So yeah, got to know them very well.
They're great. They're phenomenal people. I went to Pensacola Beach Brawl with them, and they would pick me up from my hotel, take me to the venue. They would be at the finishing part of whatever arena I was in with a cold water for me. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And didn't Annie Thorsdottir buy into that? Like, she's part owner?
She is. She's an investor now, as well as an athlete for them still.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so how has that change been since you're the Fittest LEO and you made the semifinals? Those sponsorships have kicked up a little bit to help you out?
Those are my main two. Yeah. And it's been an absolute game changer for me, because I can actually go to these competitions that I need to get all this experience and have some of the costs covered. So it's made it possible. Had I been having to pay for all these competitions out of pocket by myself, I don't think that I would have been able to have the off season that I needed to come back ready to go.
So what competitions are you doing coming up?
So I have 615 Throwdown in Nashville in December. That is a team competition. And then with that same team, I'm doing the Fittest experience in Texas in January. So 615 is kind of like our opportunity to work out together because we have never trained as a team. The two guys are on the blacklisted team together, but the two of us girls have never trained with them. So us girls are doing a competition called Fittest of the Coast in January, the weekend before the Fittest experience, so that we can get more experience training together. So we have those two in preparation for the Fittest experience, essentially.
Well, cool. We're hoping to be at Fittest experience, so maybe we'll see you there again.
Yeah, I've never been to that one, but I hear it's huge and a lot of fun. So I'm excited.
Yeah, Kat worked it last year.
Yeah,
So-
and we had Jeremy Teal on the podcast maybe a month ago to talk about it. So yeah, they do a great job. It's a fun one.
Yeah, he described it as a party experience.
Mhm.
A party experience. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun, a cool vibe, big community event.
Good. That's what I'm hoping for. So it'll be awesome.
All right. So I want to kind of go back a little bit. Growing up, you were a gymnast, so you have that gymnastics background. At what level did you do gymnastics?
Oh, I was not, I'm not a Carrie Pierce or a Katrin. I went through like 8th grade is all. I went once a week. It still was a great foundation for CrossFit, but it was not my main sport. Soccer was my main sport growing up. I wanted to do soccer in college. I made my college soccer team, but the coach was not my favorite. And I could tell that if I played for him, I was going to hate soccer. And I loved it. So I didn't want that to happen. So in college, I actually found rugby, and that became my main sport during and after college.
And how did that go? The transition from soccer to rugby?
It really went as a conversation with the coach that thank you for the opportunity, but I'm going to pass. And then I saw the flyers and I was like, this sounds way more like me. However, women's rugby, especially up in Michigan at that time, it wasn't a varsity sport. For maybe like 2 colleges had varsity programs for women as all. So it was not actually an in-college sport, I guess you would say. And for our college, because we were so small, we only had 3,200 undergraduates. It wasn't even a club sport. It was a student or so. By my 3rd year of college, I ended up being the coach. I lined the fields for the games. I had to reserve the fields, do our fundraising. So us students actually ran the show. So it gave me a lot of leadership experience that I needed. But it was also more of a family than any other sport I had played up to that point, because we weren't fighting for playing time. We weren't fighting to be the coach's favorite. We were fighting to get enough girls at the game to be able to play. It was awesome. Those girls will always be near and dear to me.
At one time, we talked to another CrossFit athlete who was a soccer player, played in a rec league, and was told she was too aggressive and that she needed to go play rugby instead, and found a love. Like, she went to rugby and like, this is what I was made to do.
Yeah. I mean, soccer is still, I love it. I still play pickup soccer. It's a phenomenal sport. It's the best way to get cardio training in, because I hate going to the track and doing sprints. But I had the record for yellow cards in my high school soccer team. Not the record I want to have. So I think I fit in that category of I was maybe a little too aggressive for soccer. And rugby is the perfect fit.
All right. So you also told me last time I talked to you that you had sustained a back injury.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still dealing with that in some sort of way? And how does that affect both your job and being a CrossFitter?
Yeah. So my injury was from the infantry basic school, from rucking, because I wanted so desperately to prove that women belonged there. I ran every single ruck that we did, and running with a third of your body weight on your back over and over is just not healthy for it. And so the bottom 2 discs in my back are herniated. At first, it was all hip pain. I thought I fractured my hip. I still had probably 7 weeks in the course left, and I was not going to quit. So I just limped around and pushed through. I didn't know that it was actually a back injury that I was making worse. But at the end of that course, I got medical treatment. I saw 4 surgeons and got their opinions. 2 said I should get a multi-level fusion and have rods put in my back. And you lose 7 degrees of motion per disc that you have fused. And then it puts pressure on that one above it. So eventually I'd have to get that 3rd layer fused. I was 25. I was like, yeah, no, that doesn't sound great. So I opted to just try to let it heal on its own. It took probably a good 1.5 years I went to a CrossFit gym, but I was doing quarter squats to a box and assault bike because I couldn't even row. I couldn't run. It was tricky to train, but doable. And then I started to get better. In probably the beginning of 2019, I was back to actually being able to do everything other than like deadlifting and good mornings, things where you're hinging with a lot of weight are never going to be great for my back. But in 2019, I was able to ramp it back up. And then obviously by 2021, I was healed enough that I could go full intensity, full volume. It's still, I have to sit on I have an inversion table at home. I have to sit on the inversion table multiple times a day to just get it to decompress. Because I don't have as much fluid in my discs. So the spacing can come back because I don't have that fluid there. But I'm able to work around it. I have a couple of awesome doctors that treat me. I go to 919 Spine and North State Sport and Spine. Both of them use dry needling, cupping, adjustments, and active release to help just keep my back sustainable. Essentially, it's never going to feel amazing. But fortunately, the thing that hurts the most is sitting. And I'm really able to avoid that. I have a standing desk at work. Other than really like in the car and for a meeting or something, I pretty much stand all day. And as long as I'm standing, I'm good. It's just when I'm forced to sit a long time, like for a long car ride or something, that's when it just doesn't feel great.
So do you have to go to a competition early because you're going to have to travel there somewhere and you can't stand on a plane and you can't stand in a car. Do you have to plan ahead to make sure that you have time to recover?
I don't have that luxury because that's more time off work. That's an extra night in a hotel. So that would be amazing if I did. I don't. And in order to get around that, I'll travel I have a TENS unit. So that can kind of help the muscles relax a little faster. I have stretches that I'm used to doing and active release that I can do myself. So just working on that mobility, and I'll be in the airport stretching if I have a layover and I'm that weirdo in the corner doing it, but I don't care. It's pain relief. It helps. So I'll walk around with that TENS unit and stretch as much as I can.
So last thing about CrossFit is you talked last time about how important that 3-week open was as for your job and being able to complete the open. It's been announced that that's coming back. There's some small tweaks, but really nothing to the individual season other than that they're going to change the workouts from quarterfinals to the occupational games.
Right.
How excited are you to hear that news?
I was thrilled when I heard that. I listened to Dave Castro on the podcast and he said that, and I could not stop smiling. Last year, it wasn't the most fun to have to redo almost the exact same workout from quarters to occupational games. There was really no training value there. Like, you've already done the workout. It's just like a slight twist. So you can't even really compare your score to see if you got better, but it's also only 3 weeks later. So probably didn't get fitter in 3 weeks, especially when you're like tapering and deloading. So that makes me way more excited to participate. Last year, it was pretty bumming to have to redo the same workouts again. Just, it lacked a lot for me. And I know there are a couple other people in my gym who also did quarterfinals and occupational games, and they were unimpressed by that as well.
And you actually got rhabdo at quarterfinals, right?
I did. And then I had the pleasure of redoing that workout 3 weeks later. Not safe.
Wow. So you're married. When did you get married?
About 2.5 years ago.
So your husband has been with you for much of this journey that you're kind of being a trailblazer. How much support does he give you?
He's super supportive. He was my only training partner at the last couple of gyms before we moved to Shoe Fly. And so it was him pushing me that whole time. We actually met at Fort Benning. We were in the same infantry course, but he was classes behind me, and we didn't ever see each other at work. We met at the CrossFit gym there. So I had just gotten my back injury, and he has been with me from seeing me only be able to do strict pull-ups and quarter squats to a box all the way up through now. And he's actually got me into Misfits. He always followed their competitive programming. So that's what we did when I finally was able to do more. It was Misfits with him the whole time till the mat.
Yeah, I saw in his birthday post to you that he thanked you for letting him win 1 out of 5,000 workouts. That's
accurate. Now, he, poor guy, used to beat me in everything because I had to scale everything, right? And once I started actually being able to work out, I started beating him, and it just has never flipped back.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a trooper.
Yeah, and now we're going to go down Kat's fairway. You're a dog mom.
I am.
And if I remember correctly, it's Oliver and Ella.
Yes, it is. Yeah. You saw Ella earlier was out in the yard walking around behind me.
And they are a puggle?
Yes.
And a Chihuahua mix.
Yep. Ella was the little 9-pound ball of energy. And then Oliver's a grumpy old man who really likes his bed.
Yeah. And so are they, I have a dog myself. Kat has 3 dogs. We love dogs on this show. There's such emotional support for everything you do. And I can only imagine that being in the line of work that you are and doing all that you're doing, that is so important to have that emotional support when you get home.
It's huge. Coming home to a happy dog who every single day gets just as excited to see you is what probably the highlight of my day, if I'm being honest. Don't tell my husband that, but they're just consistently so excited to see you. And I don't know how you can be in a bad mood when a dog comes up to you like that. It's not possible for me. I got Oliver very early on when I was a local police officer because I was working night shift coming home to an empty house, and the rest of the world was off at work. All my friends were, busy with their jobs during the day. And for me, that was hugely helpful to just have someone to come home to.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, mine is a Chihuahua mix as well. And when I come home, his butt wiggles so hard and so fast because he's so excited to see me.
Mood, right?
Right. It's the best.
Yeah.
So I want to finish up, unless Kat has some other questions.
No, I was just going to ask you, in terms of your mental health or, your downtime, what are some of the things that you do to sort of unwind aside from working out, and maybe playing with the dogs? Because there's a lot in CrossFit now about destigmatizing mental health. And, we know just statistically that law enforcement officers, often suffer from, mental health issues. There's a high rate of suicides and things like that. Like, what are you doing to sort of keep yourself healthy in that regard?
Yeah. So between work and training, I don't have a ton of extra time. So during the week, it really is just spending those extra minutes with the dogs or my husband. But I feel like part of that for me is keeping my stress as low as I can through all of that. And I do that by being the luckiest person ever to have coworkers who are actually friends as well. So we take lunch together and we laugh and we decompress as a group. After an arrest, we'll go to breakfast or lunch, and it doesn't like build up because we're constantly decompressing together. And I think that not everyone in law enforcement is fortunate enough to have that, especially locally. Locally, you're going call to call to call, and you don't get to decompress on your shift. So if I think back to when I was local and I didn't have the support and the coworkers who double as friends that I do now, it was really, I lived up near my family. It was calling home, seeing my family, hanging out with friends intentionally, not just going to the gym with them, but actually like having quality time with people for me was super important. Like I said, now I get to have that quality time at work with my coworkers. Also, my best friends are who I work out with at the gym. So if I had a rough day at work, I come to the gym and my husband's there and my best friends are there. So I already have people to vent to if I need to give me a hug if I need that. So it's built into my daily life now. And I'm very fortunate to have that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good.
So these are the final two questions, and that is that one, the CrossFit world is full of frontline workers, right?
Absolutely.
Even the floor announcers are firemen and SWAT team leaders and all of that kind of stuff. Have you been able to
Yep.
connect with them and create friendships with the people you met at MAC?
So I have connected with a few of them, but at the MAC, I was so focused on trying to recover and just keep up with everything that was going on around me. I didn't get to make as many connections as I would have liked to, but at these other competitions I've gone to off season, I've made tons of connections. So the girl that I'm doing all those competitions with coming up actually met in Kentucky at Top of the Box. And so obviously we have a lasting connection. We're doing 3 competitions, having to fly to even go compete in these together. So the MAC wasn't the greatest place for me to make those connections just because of how overwhelmed I was. But this year, if I were to go back, I would definitely be more relaxed and prioritize that.
And so speaking of this year, what is the goal? I know last year was LEO and you accidentally made semifinalists.
Yeah.
So now what's the goal?
I would love to win back my title as LEO and make it to semifinals again. But this time I would like to be competitive at semifinals and try to fight to get in the top heat.
So we're looking at top 10.
That would be a dream come true. I'm going to work my ass off to do it, and we'll see.
Well, your track record shows that if you put your mind to something, there's a pretty good chance you're going to pull it off. So I'm excited for this season and excited to see what you can do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, best of luck. We'll be watching.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.